evening. Welcome to Defacto Review, a weekly in-depth analysis into the news and current affairs here in Mongolia, with our commentator and economist, Gerald Defacto.
Good evening.
And I'm Anand Tumurto for MMB World. You can watch us live on Facebook at MMB World, and you can join in the conversation on Twitter with the hashtag Gerald_Defacto. Today on our program, fuel prices are rising in Mongolia. Is hedging prices the answer? Mongolian media is partially free, but are the owners of the media companies weaponizing the press? New executives are in place at the Independent Authority Against Corruption. Who are they, and why should we care? In the past week, fuel prices have risen in Ulaanbaatar. The prices of A1 leaded gasoline, which accounts for 80% of Mongolia's fuel consumption, rose by 70 to 80 turugs a week ago and has reached 1,800 to 55 to 1,880 turugs per liter. Also, the price of diesel fuel has risen by 30 to 40 turugs. So, let's start from the root cause of this problem. What has caused this increase in price? And the people in charge explains that the increase in price is because of the global market increase. Do you agree with this notion?
Yeah, the fuel price in every country depends on the price of petroleum product. For those countries which is not producing petroleum. Otherwise, that product depends on also the raw material, raw oil. In Mongolian case, for example, this is depending on the price of petroleum product on Singapore market, measured by Platts price institute that informs the price on a weekly and daily basis. I wrote an article called Fuel Price, Sword and Shield, an article last week, and it is coming in English this next week, in which I said about more details about those prices, on which it depends on. Of course, it depends on the raw materials. Raw materials price depends on, we measure it by, the world is measuring it by Brent and WTI, Western Texas Intermediate. So by these two prices we measure. And of all the raw materials price itself is always cyclical like any other commodities. And also it particularly depends on the relations between two big powers, two big players, many big players, like the largest producer in the world of petroleum, US, and US is now the largest consumer and producer, thanks to this refinery of oil shell. And China is the largest consumer. It depends also on the relations between China and other countries, Russia and OPEC, who in sync trying to control the output of oil per day. If they control too much, there will be limited sources available, and then the price will go up. That's the assumption. Also, many things depends on the happenings in such a large export country, oil export countries like Iraq, Iran, Venezuela. So things depends on that too much, and of course we cannot do anything about those things. However, Mongolia depends on one company, to be exact, on even one refinery, which is in Angarsk next to Baikal, Irkutsk. Okay. Why? Because that price they offer cannot be competed with other suppliers, because it's the cheapest, closest. Because, so I wrote once an article called also carrot and stick policy of Russia, and Russia like sometimes use oil resources or energy resource, sometimes like a carrot for friends and the sticks for enemies. So we need to be careful on one side. On the other side, Russia also, Rosneft, which is the owner of that refinery, suggests us to buy some shares of Angarsk a couple of months ago. We did not, we don't, and they they presented $10 million to the president of Mongolia to celebrate 70th anniversary of Khalkhin-Gol fights war with Japan,
Yes.
and they in exchange they offer to make the gas stations along the highway between two borders, north and south, which is not possible because we have a special provision in our petroleum law, which says that somebody who has a foreign company, foreign entities who supplies more than 30% of domestic consumption cannot have access to the retail sale. So this is not possible. Second, what they asked us to be to have a concessions agreement for kerosene supply in two airports, new and old one, which it looks like they are getting it now, straight, directly. So that's the situation.
So I know in 2018 that the A192 and the A80 gasoline was exempt from tax, and shouldn't this help stabilize the prices? And how can we protect our fuel prices from increasing too much, like we saw last week?
Fuel price in Mongolia depends on two factors. One is international oil price and oil products price, which is depending on the first. Second, on the exchange rate of tugriks. We buy in dollars, sell in tugriks. So first, the international price fluctuations. We can have insurance in that case. This insurance in commodity price sale trades called hedging. So we can have a hedging, which means that we now strike on this price and we agree to buy at the same price in 3 months or 6 months.
Like put a cap.
Yes, but however, if the price goes down, we lose this premium we paid. If price goes up, the price is not changing. So it is worth. But however, as the size of our companies are smaller, international oil traders do only that. By their size, they can afford it.
And because
So
Mongolia is small, they wouldn't.
small, we cannot play in a way. We may ask one of the international traders, which sometimes they offer, but however, the country has no money to put into that, and also neither we don't have cups, spaces to storages to store a supply for 1 or 2 months. They want to create now one in Arshant, nearby Ulaanbaatar city. But this is the way how you can kind of hedge or guarantee
to have
yourself.
like a refinery.
But for domestic, for tugrik, fluctuations, you cannot do anything. It depends on the capacity of the economy to earn dollars. Unfortunately, we borrow a lot of dollars, pay back in dollars, but we use it for infrastructure or some other things which not directly produce goods that we can sell for export, earning US dollar. And unfortunately, many bond revenues, proceeds are being used in Mongolia very carelessly.
Yes.
So that in that circumstances, it's very hard. The best thing I think is the free price. The gas supply in gas stations should be priced freely. It will consist of competition among, well, we have some 80 importers of oil products, but 6 or 7 of them are more substantial, larger, having units of points of sales all around the country. There will be a fight in between these 7 and 8 companies. And I think this fight will be very important because they will fight to the death of each other, which will decrease the prices, which is quite normal. But only the lobby, the way the government trying to control the price, keeps the price coming up, not never coming down. So there are certain rooms they should cut costs to fight each other. That we should do. If we announce that the petroleum price will be free, then that fight will start. You know, I think it's the best because now people understand it depends on the international price, which don't depend on us, first. Secondly, the price will be changed anyway. But the supplier companies will do their best to have the minimum cost on their side, which will give the people a rational, a right sense of future price changes. Okay, if the price comes, I need to cut my consumption or change my car, or go for, we need more public transport.
But that's difficult. We don't have the good infrastructure to accommodate those.
To have their own infrastructure, yes. Public transport.
Yeah, you were talking about the Rashant refinery that the Indians were helping us to build, and it was supposed to open in 2021, but it got delayed to 2023. So who is responsible for this delay?
Okay, I was talking about the storage in Arshan, 70 kilometers away from Ulaanbaatar.
Yes.
What you talk is about the refinery,
Oh,
which is financed by Indian Exim Bank.
Yes.
On $1 billion. The government signed during the Prime Minister Modi's visit a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Finally, they are implementing. The feasibility study is done. Infrastructure about 20 kilometers from Sainshand to Altangshire is 80% completed. Power station line is there. Power line is there. Railway is being completed. But
why the delay?
But that raw oil is to come by pipeline for 670 kilometers pipelines, which is even not started. They have no money to start it. Just now they're negotiating to find the money. Looks like there is some residual money or remaining money from that $1 billion, which is for that refinery plant itself. Some $200 or so million is available there, and then you need another $150 million more to make that pipeline succeed, implemented. Then second issue is to buy oil from China, who is China Petrotaching Tamsag, who is producing in Tornot petroleum, right? Oil products, and we have production sharing contract with them. Our shares we have it now in raw materials in nature, and then the Chinese share should be sold to us at the international price. So it looks like as soon as the pipeline is there, they will supply. But however, we will not have enough oil reserve to even functioning that new refinery if it is made on time. But it looks like it will, as you said, it will be already 2 years extended, delayed. And you ask me who will take responsibility. Nobody will take responsibility in this country, because there are so many mega projects, and the politicians talk one thing, they never finish. Like power station number 5. 20 years talk, 10 times laying the foundations, and no power stations. So I think by that we have already set Guinness record of inefficiency of the government.
Okay, speaking of irresponsibilities and taking responsibility, moving on to our second topic. May 3rd was Press Freedom Day. And on May 3rd, the National Independent Journalism 2019 Forum was held at the National Center for Culture. The president of Mongolia, Bahtullah, sent an official letter to the forum, which was read by the presidential civil society and human rights policy advisor, Oyenga. And in his speech, in his letter, basically, he said that the voice of Mongolian journalists should always be independent. But we should know that the president has his own company. And how does this quote, what do you make of this quote, basically?
Yeah, he said, made this media to be a voice of people, independent voice of people forever.
Yeah.
I said, okay, let it be. But it depends on you also, Mr. President. You have on your TV.
He does, yes.
And I know many former presidents has on site. And many ministers have on TVs. Commercial banks, largest 2 banks have both. One has TDB has Bloomberg.
Also has newspapers.
Eagle, yes, Eagle TV has on Eagle. The Qalum Bank has on Eagle TV. And those are major financiers of the political parties financing, which are never disclosed. So basically, according to the study made borderless journalists,
Reporters without borders. Yes.
Reporters without borders. Okay. According to this study, out of around 500 media outlets in Mongolia, 75% belongs to either former or current political leaders, and these banks plus. So I'm just wondering how you can talk about the full freedom of media or free competition among media outlets in such cases. So I think President Bush sounds for me very sarcastic. So a lot fake news, defamatory speeches, remarks made by the people who are hired by the politicians against each other on particular issues, which creates this feeling of fake news in the country.
Yes. Then how can we basically stop these people from controlling the media in Mongolia?
Well, first of all media's owners should be the beneficial owners, benefactors, main benefactors, because even the president, his C1 TV is not on his name. And on another name, on the MBS or another name, according to the CRS website, where you can see the owners of the media, but under completely different names. Bloomberg is under TDB name, etc. That's okay. But however, many media which belong to the politicians are under another name. So the politicians to come and say, report the truth of their media influence first. Secondly, I think all journalists should be not doing fake news for them, or the news defamating for the competitors of the politicians. And you know, on May 3, as you said, there was a forum of independent media journalism in Mongolia, first one, and the president of United Federation of Mongolian Journalists, Mr. Mandakh said that our Mongolian media is not independent. It is for questions asked by journalists to be controlled, censorship by the owner and by whoever. And plus now Mongolian journalists don't have a right to keep in secret the source of information, for example. By law we have to disclose. Third, very miserable small salary of journalists. We have some 4,500 people working in journalism in Mongolia. 2,900 of them are working for TVs, 150 channels of TV. So, and also said that what is the solution, he said. First, we need to change a law amendment to make amendments in the press law. And the second, he said, we need to have a journalist's palace. Well, I mean, it can be done by probably donations. I have seen journalism conference places made by journalists, where journalists are coming together. All politicians come to only that place and give because it's very nice, auditorium, everything, translating, you know, all this, made very well. And I saw that in Berlin, and nearby German Reichstag, they have this kind of conference hall only by journalists, for journalists, which sounds good.
So you also talked about, again, the journalists don't have good salaries. How do journalist education, their literacy, can influence freedom of press? For example, there's basically no specialization for a lot of journalists in Mongolia, and most Mongolian journalists don't possess a second language, English to be precise. And how does that hinder press freedom, maybe?
Yeah, it does. Just closes the opportunities. And we need to work a lot to developing human resources in journalism, to make a retraining of journalists. Particularly, we need a lot of technical employees of all this equipment we use
Yes.
in the media, because there are very few, nobody's preparing them. They come and they kind of first job training, though they are engineers, in every studio. So it doesn't...
More vocational training maybe, right?
Yes, and because the salary is very small, they keep going, changing channels, and I mean, somebody's working for all channels somehow,
Yes.
one by one.
Or some journalists would give up their own careers.
Yeah, the reason is why the salary is so small is because for 500 media, the advertisement industry, which is estimated about 20 million now, it was 2015, last official statement was, not official, but Maxima Group, the statement was in 2015, that was about $15 million total industry of advertisement. And now I guess it's now about 20 million. But 20 million advertisement revenue only for, say, 3,000, for 156 channels. 16 of them are broadcasting all around the country.
Yes.
The remaining is the channels inside of IMAX and cities, etc. But altogether is still very, very, very small money.
Yes.
And because the majority of these all outlets work with loss, financed by politicians, by banks, and this does not make the industry competitive. You were talking about the specialization. Yes, if there is no competitive, proper competition, there is no specialization. Everybody does everything.
Yes.
So, jacks of all masters, how the Americans
master
say.
of none.
Yes. So that's, I think, a major reason. And it's politicians should be somehow closed, or they have been should be forbidden to run media, in particular, president himself or the former president, etc. I mean, this is ridiculous, and they should themselves refuse. They themselves somehow find a way to say that I'm separate. So far, I haven't seen any that sort of statement in Mongolia.
Well, hopefully that will change in a few years.
Well, we're hoping very long.
Yes. Moving on to our third topic. On May 2nd, during the plenary session of Parliament, Dashtawa was appointed the head of the Commissioner of the Independent Authority Against Corruption, and Mr. Batsakhan was appointed the Deputy Commissioner of the agency. So two new people were appointed. And the main agency that is fighting against corruption, again, just appointed two new leaders. And what are your thoughts about these two people who were just appointed to one of the biggest?
It is not an easy job, I'm telling you, because Mongolia became a member of Convention of Anti-Corruption World Declaration, UN Declaration, and then we need to, under this convention, had to create a separate agency fighting corruption in public offices, which kind of became a separate kind of police in that for that purposes. Okay, the first head of the agency is killed under unclear circumstances. Second, prisoned under unclear circumstances. The third, he freed himself. He asked, he resigned.
Yes.
The fourth, we met him resigning, now replacing the fifth guy. If I had a power, I would put a foreign commissioner.
A foreign person?
Foreign person to the head of this crazy organizations, which is not really meeting our complete needs. Why? It's quite normal. In Hong Kong, they had the chief police from England some time ago. And they have invited two judges of two ladies. One is from Canada, one is another Australia. They have met their requirements. So it's normal. It's even better because they don't have any, relations with other Mongolians. They don't have classmates or from the same area, IMAX, or from the same school. It's good, but they will not do it, I know. So, but you asked me what I think about this too. If I were the head now, I will ask. I will do not only this 23 criminal cases where some parliament members asked to have an investigation, proper investigation, and give the answer to people. You know what I will do? I will start my job from asking questions from the two political parties heads of Mongolia. I will ask them to explain properly where and how they were financing their parties and where the money have gone. Why? Because this is the most corrupt institutions in Mongolia is People's Party and Democratic Party and People's Revolutionary Party. Three largest party in the country.
Parties, yes.
And nobody knows, except the head of these political parties, where the money comes from and how they are spent for. And then do you expect to complete with the corruption in this circumstance? No. If they cannot give proper answer, I should arrest them and put into prison. Doesn't matter what positions they have. And secondly, my priority will be to take back our lost money, public money, including this 33 billion tugriks that the the head of who left, the head of the anti-corruption agency, Inkjarga, said. The most difficulty he faced was the 33 billion tugriks mismanagement was forgiven by the previous president. So I will ask this previous president and every lawmakers who voted for that law to forgive the reason why they have done it, whether they have a connection or not. So that's the job. Unfortunately, he will not, I know for sure that he will not do these two things. Probably he will do with this 23 or so cases, somehow result he will, that's at least we expect.
Well, speaking on that note, the recent years, though, the Independent Authority Against Corruption has shown to have been doing a good job with looking at the data that increase of grievances from citizens increased and investigations also increased. However, the number of litigations transferred to courts was very few. And what was the reason behind, so they transferred all these cases to court, but most of the courts have not decided to finalize the cases?
Exactly. That's the whole problem. I need to find out which one is stupid of these two institutions. They said 270 cases, they are, after investigation, they say it's criminal, it should go to the court. But the court or the procurer says it should not.
Prosecute.
So who one is bullying us? Who is making us stupid? And they should explain why those cases are not criminal. Then if it is really not criminal, why this stupid anti-corruption agency have been spending so much our money to investigate this issue?
Yes.
So, and everything that is refused to, every file refused to go to court should be publicly explained why is it so. Until that, we cannot combat corruptions. Until that, this agency or the procurer and all, they are playing the game of politics. Not for us, it's all for politicians. So we need to wait and see how things will go now.
With the
two new leadership.
Do you like these two appointees? Your last word, maybe. On this.
No, it is not the issue I like, or I don't know at all these people, but we want to see the results. We want these criminals who are stealing our money, our lands, our bank monies, they should go to prison.
And these two people?
Before they go to prison, they should pay back. That's the criteria. If they do it, I like it. If don't, the same.
Okay, on that note, we have reached our end of our show. And thanks for watching Defacto Review on MLB World. We'll see you next week.
Thank you very much. You can also subscribe our newspaper, including this review and other articles, on jargaldefacto.com website, free. You will receive it in the email with the newspaper in 4 languages, Mongolian, Russian, English, and Japanese. Thank you.